we have a new match. It's not Phil Jones versus Brandon Carpenter. We have two players who I don't even remember. I think it's like Alex Stevens and Joshua Ollie. We don't even know these players, but they are both at table 2, so they're both XO for tonight. So clearly they're doing something right.
I see a basic land forest for sure.
Okay, we've got Ponza versus Abzan value up here, and this could go either way. Let me give you my quick evaluation of those words as a matchup. Ponza, good against Abzan decks generally, but not against Abzan decks that have hierarchs or birds, because we can circumvent Blood Moon, and also we don't care about Stone Rain
as much.
If this Abzan value deck means that we're on 4 birds, 3 hierarchs, a bunch of Restoration Angels, Thrag Tusks, Trustani, Summoner's Void, we got like a Ghostway, Eerie Interlude, Stonehorn Dignitary.
These aren't cards.
This is a deck. Stonehorn Dignitary deck. You never seen this deck?
Let me look up the card Stonehorn.
You play E-Witness and Eerie Interlude and or Ghostway, and you continually bounce all your guys, including Stonehorn Dignitary, and you lock your opponent out of the game indefinitely. But Absent Value could also be a Flicker Wisp Siege Rhino deck. I've seen those. I've actually lost to one of those pretty badly. I lost to Runner, 3 Siege Rhinos in a row out of this an Absent Blink deck.
I'm definitely seeing a Thoughtseize in Alex's deck, so this could just be like traditional Abzan.
I'm thinking we're gonna have Siege Rhinos, Thought-Knot Seers, and Restoration Angels. That's my guess.
I think that's a reasonable guess.
It could also be like Little Kid, like Wiltleaf, but I kind of doubt it.
You know, that's a deck I was kind of surprised seemed to fall out of favor. I actually
think it's
kind of poised to
the deck's extremely good.
Because right now I feel like Modern is kind of at a low point in like at least the recent past of really degenerate, unfair combo decks. Like there's like typically like 3 Storm players in the day 2s of most of the opens nowadays.
Yeah,
and they're the people that are
it's awful.
Storm and are just really good with that deck.
We got a 9 versus a 5, so Ponza will be on the play. That's pretty good for Ponza, I take it. I think Wiltleaf Abzan, or just green-white Wiltleaf right now, both those are really good decks, like really good decks.
Now I'm trying to get a look at Mr. Stevens' hand.
Joshua had interesting call by Joshua. Joshua actually had, I think, 5 lands, Bolt, Arbor Elf.
I don't think it's keep.
I don't think so either, but I think that
I can see an argument for it.
I can see an argument to keep that blind. You got a Bolt, you got an Arbor Elf, and whatever you draw off the top, if it's anything good at all, you can cast it on turn 2 or 3. I don't know if I'd pitch that hand blind. I think I'd say, especially at an FNM, I'd be like, you know what, screw it. It's not like Ponza Mulligans, but Ponza Mulligans terribly. So I kind of like keeping 5 lands, Arbor Elf, Bolt in the blind matchup here.
Now I have a weird question for you. Based on see, this is something I always see on coverage, and I've never really been sure how to approach talking to opponents about this that do this. This is kind of random, but Joshua, when he went to shuffle, or when he was done shuffling his deck, he did this move where he kind of like picks his deck up and like stacks it and like gets it all in order. And when he does it, he brings the bottom card up towards himself.
Yeah, you can definitely.
Is that something you would mention to your opponent if they did that? Just be like, hey, I don't know what you're. I'm not accusing you of cheating right now.
So I know you think I'm a scumbag, but I would not do that.
I don't think you're a scumbag. I think you're an asshole.
Well, difference, sure. Big difference.
Huge
big difference. Yeah. I would not. I would not
think I'm an asshole.
I would not bring that up to my opponent. What I'm much more likely to bring up to my opponent is, if you're gonna shuffle my deck instead of cutting it, I'm gonna remind you to take it easy on my sleeves. I take it extremely easy on my sleeves all the time. And
also, for what it's worth, we also saw a no lander being kept.
Yeah, well, remember, he was on a keepable 7. This is why I keep the 7 here. He's on a 7 that was 5 lands, Bolt, Arbor Elf. He mulligans to 6, has a basic forest and nothing else. Mulligans to 5, no lands. You know how many lands this Ponza deck has? Probably 21. Probably 21.
Alex, I think, makes the correct call here on this Thoughtseize, which is taking the one castable spell. Now he's left with a bunch of 3-drops and has to go runner, which is kind of difficult. We'll see. It looks like he just drew the Arbor Elf.
I'm just saying Joshua definitely should have kept the 7.
Well, hindsight is 20/20. Now he obviously knows how bad it is. But it looks like Alex's hand is also pretty bad. So if he gets a land here,
okay,
we're playing Magic. He does not.
You say hindsight's 20/20, but in this case,
Hiya!
This deck doesn't play enough lands, and mulligans poorly generally, and I don't think 5 lands Arbor Elf Bolt is ever unkeepable.
Yes.
In game 1.
So now we got a tracker for no value, and now this will be if he can get a land here. Ooh, and he does not, so irrelevant. But if he were to have gotten a land there, he may have had a chance in this game because he could have taken him off green, and then both players would have been stuck, not really doing much of anything.
I think Alex is gonna do stuff.
Alex has a lot of stuff to do, but none of it's really super cool.
We might just be on budget black green rock with
like a light splash
with lingering souls. Yeah,
I did see like an obstinate Baloth in Alex's hand.
Oh, so it's kind of a Michael Belfato kind of deck.
Yes.
So Joshua is scooping him up.
A Belfie type deck. Actually, honestly, I think if Josh could have seen his opponent's hand, there's a chance he would have continued playing there. I don't actually think he was dead. I think he was probably just a little bit frustrated that he was missing on lands or had stopped. I mean,
one of Joshua's cards was a Blood Moon, and Alex had what, Swamp in play.
Well, he had Stone Rain, so I think if you get lucky there and can Stone Rain him off of green, Alex's hand, literally, I don't think did anything without green.
Okay.
He had a Courser, which needed double green.
Sure.
Obstinate Baloth needed double green. Abrupt Decay, which, kind of annoying, but, whatever. That's a card. And you have, like, Chandra. So if you go, like, land there, I actually totally think he's...
I'm just saying, this is the kind of player I am. So, at the Open, I kept a hand on day 2, in round 2 of day 2. I guess it was round 11 or whatever. I kept a hand that was 5 lands... Noble Hierarch, Knight of the Reliquary. One of the lands was a Raging Ravine. One of the lands was a Stirring Wildwood. I kept 3 lands, Noble Hierarch, Knight, Manland. I kept that hand. I kept that 7. I looked over to Mario. I said, Mario, should I keep this 7? It's a little iffy, but, I mean, I'm blind game 1 here. And I kept it against Burn. And I got destroyed by Triple Goblin Guide. But... I think you keep that hand blind every time. Why would you? And that's basically the same hand. I mean, frankly, that's the same hand that Joshua had the opportunity to keep just there, right?
Yes.
I was on turn 2. No matter what, I was on turn 2 Knight with man lands. I've got 5 lands. 2 of them are utility lands, though. I've got a turn 2 Knight. Joshua had a turn 1 Elf and a reactive spell in the Bolt. He had 5 other lands. But he was going to be able to cast whatever he drew, right? If it was a 3-drop, he could turn 2 it.
I mean,
every 4-drop, he could turn 3 it.
In his deck is castable based on that.
Yeah, could have bolted that tracker. I mean, I don't, I get why people pitch that hand in game 2 and game 3, but game 1 blind, that hand could be the fucking nuts.
And it's interesting. I'm trying to think if I would be more or less inclined to keep that hand, knowing I'm playing against a Thoughtseize deck. That's another question I'm kind of pondering right now. Because, I mean, if he goes Guy, Dork, go, gets that Bolt taken, that feels pretty bad. But any 6 that you get Thoughtseize on also feels equally as bad.
Yes. A 6 getting Thoughtseize is terrible.
Yeah.
Now, we got a good point in chat that people underestimate how good 6+ Scry is. I agree that's true for a lot of decks. I don't know how true it is for Ponza. I mean, Ponza is very draw dependent and kind of needs to have turn 1 Utopia Sprawl or turn 2 Mana Dork.
Yeah, I mean, but also, the deck I don't think actually plays any 2-drops.
Not really, no. But the problem is, well, you play like Scavenging Ooze, but people play this Goose main board.
Here, I'm going to look up the winning list from the Open a couple weeks ago just to see, because I actually think it may have had 0 2-drops. And if it did have any 2-drops, I'm pretty sure they would be something like Explore.
You don't play Explorer in the deck, not that I know of, but you definitely play Scavenging Ooze, if not in the main and the side. But
do you remember, was that the Modern Open, I believe?
Not sure.
Dallas?
There's been a few ones doing well lately. Was it a
Green Ren Land Destruction from Andrew?
Oh, got first place.
It won.
I must have. I looked at all these lists. So I must have seen this one. Is it for Bloodbraid Elves?
It is for Bloodbraid Elves. Let's see. No 2-drops in the main deck. Literal 0 2-drops in the main deck.
And 2 scavenging using the side.
2 scavenging using the board, along with 2 Ancient Grudge. So those are quite like if you don't go turn 1 Dork, you're not doing anything the following turn.
Well, that's not true either. You have 10. What do you have? 8 1. You have 12 1-drops, right?
You have 4 Arbor Elf. This particular list had 2 Birds of Paradise accompanying that, as well as the 4 Utopia Scrolls.
And 2 lightning bolts.
And 2 lightning bolts, yes.
So if you're not playing 3-drop or not playing 2-drops, you're definitely trying to double spell on turn 2. If you didn't have, if you went turn 1 Mana Dork and it got bolted, turn 2 you're probably trying to go bolt Mana Dork.
Now Alex here, in this game 2, started on a whatever wastes, whatever pain land that is, I forget. That signals to me that he's not working with a lot of lands, because that's about the worst possible land to start.
I think Alex is playing a slightly budget deck.
I'm inclined to agree with you right now. And Joshua has brought in Anger, which...
Why would you bring in it? Maybe he hasn't main board, but you don't really want it main board. Why would you bring that in?
Well, doesn't matter. Alex has 1 lander and is probably going to die. Now, just a lot of people, I feel like, arguably the most important decision you make in every game of Magic you play is, do you keep or do you mulligan?
Sure.
And I think a lot of players are losing a lot of equity based on the decisions they're making. Because I'm pretty sure Alex kept on 7. Chat, correct me if I'm wrong there, please, but this is a horrible, horrible 7 to keep. A 1-lander in an Abzan value deck that's presumably very mana hungry.
Yeah, so if he had turn 1 Thoughtseize, if he had multiple 1-drops, he's on the draw. That's one thing to keep in mind. If he had multiple 1-drops, I'd keep that on the draw. Given that he's playing a 20, if he's playing 24, 25 lands, and I had 2 Thoughtseize, and I'm on the draw, yeah, I'd do it. I'd do it.
I mean, I can see an argument for it, for sure. For sure.
If I'm on lower like 22, 23 lands, 100% no. And if I didn't have 2 plays to make 2 1-drops, I wouldn't do it.
So I guess we'll just have to see how this hand pans out for Alex. It's not looking good. He's got some catch up to do. Bricks again. Probably going to move to discard here in a moment. Now, Alex is I got to imagine he has 8 cards. Or maybe not. If we could get a check on that. No, maybe that is 7. That looks like 7, actually. Yeah, now, based on the fact that he hasn't had to mulligan, or hasn't had to move to clean up step, he definitely had to have mulliganed. Probably to 6, which makes me feel a little bit better about keeping this hand. Now, kind of while stuff is happening over here that's not super interesting, Loltrosity brought up something which I never heard about. Apparently there was some type of World Championship old school tournament on Twitch. Are you familiar with this at all?
Yeah, I've watched it. It's on YouTube, and I've watched people play. They play with unsleeved cards, and it's very old school. It's kind of cool though. Why is it the worst thing ever?
About as interesting and dynamic as a core set starter deck, he says.
Well,
again, with this gender presumption, I'm just the worst person in the whole world.
That's right. That's right.
I didn't even work on that.
I gotta say, I think that I don't know exactly what video he's talking about, but I have watched some of the old, like the 1994, 1995, 1996 stuff, and some of it's pretty neat, if only to see about the different way that the game, not only for one, spells were so much more powerful than creatures, and the game had a totally different focus, and the curve hadn't really been invented. The first Sly red decks didn't really come out in '94. They came out the mana curve was not well established. The idea of a creature-based mana curve was not. So the game is just very different. It's kind of fun to watch, and again, it's fun to watch people play in a high-stakes setting without sleeves. Watch them shuffle their their 60-card deck is only an inch and a half tall. So it's kind of neat, but
now we've had 2 pretty unpleasant games. Let's hope this third one is a little bit more interactive.
Yeah, it seems
People
like
that keep hands that
so
are good.
we didn't see Alex's opening 7 before he mulled, but it seems like this game could have been driven so far, the outcome of each game, entirely by mulligan decisions.
Yes.
100%. I mean, I still stand by the fact. You can tell me I'm wrong. I don't care. I'm pretty sure Joshua made the incorrect decision to not keep that hand blind game 1. I know you're telling me I'm Captain Hindsight, but I believe it in my heart that 5 lands, Arbor Elf, Bolt is a fine blind keep on the play.
And I'm going to defer to your judgment here because I don't play the color green.
Okay.
Not a big fan of that color.
Love it.
In general.
Just love it.
I want to love it. And, you know, I bought Tarmogoyfs, and then 2 weeks after that, they printed this card called Fatal Push.
Oh, yeah, get wrecked.
Major bummer. major bummer.
Card's still good, but...
Card is definitely still good, but, you know, I'd rather have my 1 mana big dumb vanilla creatures versus my 2 mana big dumb vanilla creatures.
I like my 1 mana 3/3s, you know?
Okay, now, let's see. This hand is looking quite good for Josh. He's got, I believe, 3 lands, Arbor Elf, double Bloodbraid Elf, and something else.
That could be pretty good for this this Abzan deck to deal with. I wonder if Abzan's playing the sweet anti-Bloodbraid Elf tech.
Which is?
Do you know what tech I'm referring to?
Let me think.
We talked about it in group chat the other day. He could feasibly play in these colors, especially with Llanowar Waste and Double Swamp like we saw in game 1.
So, a colorless card? Am I warm there?
Nope. You'd have to take a damage to cast it out of with a swamp and a Llanowar Waste.
Take a damage to cast it on a Geralf's Messenger.
Geralf's Messenger, hell yeah.
Geralf's Messenger is a card that you can play with.
we were having this discussion in about.
I believe this is another 1-lander on 6.
Oh, really?
He's elected to keep, but put it on top. I believe. I could definitely be wrong there, but I know for sure we see this black or green. Oh, drop his cards. Yahtzee.
Another Llanowar Waste. Man, what is with these? How many are we playing? Like 20 swamps and 7 Llanowar Wastes? Is that what the mana base here is?
Now, what are you taking out of this hand? Obviously, it's dependent on Alex's hand. If he has the removal spell for...
If he has the removal spell for Courser, yeah, I'm okay with taking Elf.
Yeah, I mean, that's like the first thing my gut is telling me to take.
But it also seems like taking a Bloodbraid Elf isn't bad either, so...
Yeah, I mean...
Totally depends on what he's got.
And, like, if he had an answer to the Elf, I think that would have been, like, a pretty good start. Just to go Thoughtseize your 3-drop, then kill your 1-drop. Seems like a strong line. But right now, Alex's mana is pretty awkward here. He needs another green source and another black source. So if he spikes like a Verdant here or something, I think he's in good shape.
Oh, look,
our
Ponza player failed to play a 2-drop because he doesn't have any.
He does not.
He probably brought in Scoos, though.
I imagine if Scoozes are in his deck, he probably has them. So now Alex takes 1, gains 1,
Shoot you for 3.
Kind of saying, yeah, I don't really have anything going on over here. Joshua decides to fetch at end step, presumably grabbing a Stomping Ground, I'm going to imagine. Maybe a Cinderglade. Maybe he's feeling spicy. I don't know.
Yeah.
He just passed over a Stomping Ground, so... Oh, just opts for the basic mountain. That's interesting.
Well, that can't be correct.
Yeah.
There's actually no world where that's correct. But that's okay. We'll go for it. There's no possible way it's correct. I can't think of a way where getting basic mountain is correct. I actually don't think it's possible. I can't even construe a strange... I'm trying to think, like, what if his opponent is playing...
Well, maybe he wanted to do this? Is that justifiable at all? Being able to Cinderglade untapped here?
With this fetch land?
Yeah.
No, because he could have gotten Stomping Ground tapped, and then gotten a basic and been in the same position. But basic mountain is just it is the least serving. You could have I don't understand it.
I can almost see an argument for it because now he's got double of both of his colors, whereas if he were to take the line you said, he would have only had 1.
Yeah, but he's only at 3 lands, and he needs 4 lands to get... I just don't understand. You know.
And you know, I mean, this is kind of like another knock in the... strategy we were just discussing is Alex does have a Ghost Quarter in play, which presumably probably won't be activated for a long time.
Well, my guess is that's the only mountain in Joshua's deck, meaning now if he gets Ghost Quartered, he can only choose to get a forest and probably doesn't have another mountain to get.
And now Josh made another interesting play of Ghost Quartering, or casting the Molten Rain on the Ghost Quarter, which I get why you would want to do something like that, but also...
The problem is that now lets Josh...
Because...
Oh, by the way, since we got that basic mountain, whatever.
Yeah, now he can no longer cast a Chandra in his hand unless if he spikes a land drop.
Yeah, because if we would have just gotten Stomping Ground earlier, we could have gotten basic mountain. I can't believe... whatever. But Ghost Quartering his opponent there is actually interesting because it took... Wasn't there a Bloodbraid Elf revealed on top?
There was... Maybe? I'm not sure. Honestly, I don't remember. But he has 2 Bloodbraid Elves in hand, so... But I don't know, just like... Killing that land seems so odd. I mean, if he kills the other land, you're not going to Ghost Quarter your opponent when Ghost Quarter is your one land in play. You're effectively just turning off the ability for that Ghost Quarter to have any value. And you're taking away the 2 damage that is going to be cast.
Yeah, so...
It's gonna be
you're saying why didn't he Stoneware the Llanowar Wiz?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, the one reason could be that if you Stoneware the Llanowar Wiz, he does Ghost Quarter himself, gets a basic, which makes him less susceptible to Blood Moon, arguably.
Ooh.
But...
Okay, also, a good point out by Mr. Smoke Roar.
It's a hell of a name.
He could have...
He or she, or whatever
Yeah,
non-gender
God,
conformity. Yeah.
God, I'm
Sorry,
the
keep
worst.
going, though. Keep going.
Revolt was turned on through the removal of that Ghost Quarter, giving Alex a window to cast a Fatal Push, which I believe is in his hand.
He could have...
Fairly certain. And then he could have pushed the Courser, which I believe that's basically going to be the only...
He could have done
opportunity
that. He could have done that just by the thing getting Stone Rained.
Yes, also that. But I think that was a bit of a misstep as well, because now Josh is just going to be continuing to leverage the bit of card advantage out of this Courser.
Man, what if Sacrifice was not a cost on Ghost Quarter, but part of its ability, and you could a Ghost Quarter could Ghost Quarter itself, and basically all your Ghost Quarters would be like Flagstones of Trocaire. How sick would that be?
It would be weird. I wouldn't like that.
I would love that.
I mean, I know Magic as like a entity is trying to remove all like weird corner cases for that. Like I know now, they're kind of removing the ability for any discard spell to discard cards out of your own hand. A lot of them are now target opponent only, not target player. Which is kind of... I don't know how I feel about that. That kind of softening up the ability for people to kind of leverage.
Well, I'll tell you what I don't like. I don't like the disappearance of the regenerate mechanic in favor of indestructible. Because I'll tell you, zombies and trolls and creatures from below, they're not indestructible. They regenerate. It's like a flavor thing, you know. It's not the same, you know. Regenerate has a whole culture of flavor behind it, the actual word regenerate. I mean, it comes from biology. It comes from Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, regenerate is, you know, that's what trolls do. They don't make themselves indestructible. That's stupid. Making yourself indestructible is what a knight with armor does, you know.
And now I would imagine Josh is gonna cast 4 drops.
Yo, you think?
In succession for the following bunch of turns until his opponent dies. Classic. Choose not to cast that anger.
Good call.
Put these cards on the bottom. See, that was one of those spots where I'm like,
yeah, you can't look at what's on the bottom. He just looked at like the bottom 3-4 cards of his library. You can't do that.
Yes, that is the thing I would definitely comment to my opponent. I don't think I'm calling a judge over that, but that's definitely something I'm telling my opponent. Yo, watch yourself, dog.
This is
and I'm saying that in a very condescending manner, probably.
2 things. This isn't usually relevant, but this is how you should be playing Bloodbraid Elf these days. Public service announcement. If you cast a spell with Cascade, especially Bloodbraid Elf, you should flip the cards over, and then, when you're done flipping them over, hand the remainder that weren't cast to your opponent, let your opponent shuffle them, and then lift up your deck without looking at it, waiting for them to put the pile under it for you. You just simply lift up your deck, let them slide their shuffled pile under it for you. That's what you should be doing.
Okay, now let's see.
Also, Lotleth Troll, amazing card, love it, wish it saw more play. And that's a card that has Regenerate on it, because it's a troll.
I think that was a a better execution by Josh on his putting cards on the bottom of his library there, for sure. For sure. Now, Alex is just going to die here. Another... I got to imagine he may either be running poorly or his deck has not enough lands in it. Because these Abzan, these black-green based decks need a lot more lands than I think people readily would think. So we may have a perfect victory here, which would be awesome. That's something I'm into. Now Josh is running the numbers, doing the math, seeing if he wants to maybe minus this.
Isn't it only 9 damage?
Yeah, but you know, maybe just like, why not? I think Josh would have to...
What if we discard 4 or 5 creatures with this Lotleth Troll, and then next turn drop a basic swamp and regenerate this guy forever?
What if? That'd be crazy. But
what if one of the cards we discard is a Stinkweed Imp, and then we draw Dark Ritual, and then we dredge a Stinkweed Imp, we cast a Stinkweed Imp, then we have a 6/5 Lotleth Troll with Trample Regenerate and a Stinkweed Imp in play. We might win the game from that position.
We might.
Just need a Dark Ritual, a Stinkweed Imp, and 5 creatures in hand, and a swamp off the top.
Well, he did discard 4 cards.
I love Lotleth. Oh, actual 4 creatures, yeah. I love Lotleth Troll. One of my favorite cards. I used to play a Jundvine deck with it, and it was by far the most exhilarating thing to resolve. Some decks just cannot beat Lotleth Troll chaining Stinkweed Imp.
Also,
like some decks just cannot beat it.
Alex decided to show his opponent the heroic intervention in his hand. Also, he just like had that land face up, which is an interesting move. Now, this is
precarious.
Almost an interesting game.
We got a game. The troll stands alone, you know.
Now, Mr. Morisobaza says activate 2 times Nissa.
Wait, did he activate Nissa? Did he put the plant out and use the minus on the same turn?
There is a chance that did happen, because I know he blocked the scavenging ooze with the plant token the past turn. So we may... By the way, that Planeswalker is Nissa Voice of Sendagar, correct? Is that the proper name? The 3-mana Nissa? Yes. So that is the card, for those wondering. So there is a chance that he actually did activate it twice there, which...
well, maybe...
Go run back the tape. I was not...
Maybe he had, what, an Immortal Sun in play? Does that let you do that?
That does, I believe.
Actually, I think that says Planeswalkers can activate abilities. Could be wrong.
Well, he definitely does not have anything that allows him to do that in play right now, so that's a little bit awkward. I don't...
Yeah.
I don't really know. I feel like it's too far gone at this point. We'll just have to watch it a little bit better here.
I don't think it would matter, because Josh was pretty far ahead, but it could. Yeah,
Okay,
I have to go back and watch that to see how many times we activated Nissa.
Yeah, I think.
But
I feel like Nissa may have been activated a little bit too many times there.
But you never know. The more you know, the more you Coles. We are sponsored by Coles.
We are.
We are also sponsored by Nabisco.